Fast forwarding to the point where we've got the client pre-approved, we have reviewed their application, we've sent out their pre-approval letter, then we schedule them for a Zoom consultation. So the client will have a pre-qual Zoom consultation with me, which is like a 30 to 45-minute meeting where I meet with the clients over Zoom, and we're going to go through a whole bunch of information in that meeting. So they're always pre-scheduled and in my calendar. And going back to the initial consults, for the most part, we try to schedule those consults as well. If I get an email introduction to somebody, I'm going to try and schedule them for an exact time so that I'm not playing phone tag and I'm not leaving messages. And with the Zoom consultations, same thing. We're going to schedule those. We're going to send a calendar invite to the client with a link for the Zoom meeting. And then I've got that dialed in on my calendar. So then I'll get into that meeting. First thing I do with the client is just some small talk. So they're usually a little bit nervous. It's an uncomfortable process. So I want to just ask them some questions about how they're doing, connect with them a little bit, find out, how they're feeling about things. Have they started looking at homes? Just chit chat, small talk for 5 minutes or so. And then I'm finding out, I'm reading their body language and their verbal and physical cues in terms of do they feel comfortable or do they not feel comfortable? If they don't feel comfortable, then I'm going to ask some more questions to find out what are you nervous about in this process? What kinds of things do you want to see happen in this process? Is there anything I can do to help you through this? And I'm just being very open with my communication so I can get to the core of how they're feeling. And if they're feeling uncomfortable with something, then I can address it right there at the beginning, and that builds trust. So then I always go through the same information in every consultation. So I share my screen. First thing I go through is a little bit of background on Cross Country Mortgage and myself to let them know, that I've been in the business for a long time. I've got a lot of experience getting loans done. I tell them that I am a top 1% originator in the nation because I want them to know I do a lot of volume on my team. And because I do a lot of volume and it's all referral based, that speaks to the fact that we do a good job. Otherwise, we wouldn't be getting referrals for clients. So I'm letting them know that so that they feel confident that I have experience and I know what I'm doing. I'm also telling them that I am 100% based on referrals. So I'm starting to plant the seed that, hey, if you're having a good experience with me, I would really appreciate it if you could refer me to somebody because I don't pay for advertising. I don't pay for leads. I work all based on word of mouth referrals. So I go through that information. Then I put up a flyer where I've got all of my team on there. And there's 4 of us on my team. So I explain who each person is on my team. On the flyer, we have their picture and a little biography about them and what they do. That way the clients can see who they're going to be dealing with and what they do. Because if you have a team, one of the complaints always with teams is clients are saying, I don't know who's calling me. I'm getting calls from people. I don't know who they are. So you've got to introduce your team and let clients know who they are, what they do, and when they'll be contacting them. So I take them through all of that. Then the next thing we do is we go over their credit. So I'm going to tell them what their credit score is. If their credit score, isn't great, then I'm going to try and mention a few things that I'm seeing on their credit report that are holding their scores back and what that could do for their score. And then we're also having a conversation about how a higher credit score could improve the financing terms that they get and the cost for their loan. So we go through their credit. Then the next thing we do is we talk through a flyer that I put up on the screen called a do's and don'ts flyer. So in the do's and don'ts flyer, I'm explaining all the different kinds of things that could come up between when we've pre-approved them and when the buyer finds a home that could sabotage their approval. So taking out new debt, having additional credit inquiries, quitting your job and starting a new one, or drawing down your savings and now you don't have enough to cover down payment and closing costs, all those kinds of things. So I go through that flyer in pretty detailed at a pretty detailed level, because these are a lot of things that as a mortgage professional we kind of take for granted, but the average consumer, they have no idea that these kinds of things could impact their application. So this flyer is like a list of items. I go through the list of items, explain each one, and then I pause and I ask them, what kind of questions they have on that. A lot of times there are some questions on it. So that's been a great part of the process that I've added in, because it helps me to identify things that would otherwise come up once we were under contract and in underwriting. And sometimes it's too late if you're finding out at that point. The next thing we go through after that is fee worksheets. So we're looking at numbers at the desired price point and down payment for the buyer. And I take them line by line through a fee worksheet, every single number on the document. I want them to leave that appointment feeling comfortable with every single number that's going to apply toward the closing of their home, why it's there, what it is, and a realistic expectation for the cost.